Welcome to the Racing Lanes podcast. I am your host, Rico Muhammad. I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. If you guys and girls would do us a huge favor, please like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you find this information that we're going to talk about tonight useful at all, or if you know anybody else that may be able to benefit from this information, by all means, share the video with them. It helps us get into a broader algorithm into the YouTube verse and all that stuff. But that's what they say. That's what they tell us to do. And so we just trying to follow instructions. So if you guys would kindly, that's the only price of admission. If you would, please like, share, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. And we're not going to belabor the point too long tonight. Actually, I'm kind of excited for this show. And I'm probably a little remiss in myself because this probably is a show that is long overdue, because our guest tonight, we got a little history, but I'm not going to jump too far ahead. Let me welcome my co-host in and bring him up and on board. Good evening, Chuck. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great, Rico. How you doing, buddy?
I can't complain. I see. I seen a lot of stuff that you were doing up in Louisville at the truck show, and you were hobnobbing and rubbing shoulders with all the the celebrities and everything up there, and actually you bumped into actually an old friend of mine that's our guest tonight, and she is kind of, I tell you, I'm really proud of Sharae. I'm letting the cat out the bag. I'm really proud of Sharae Moore as our guest tonight. If you haven't picked up on it, man, I tell you, we kind of met through Facebook, back during Facebook groups and all that stuff, back way back in the day, way before social media and any of all this stuff. And we were just kind of, everybody kind of was just kind of sharing their input and different knowledge, and to see the different things from which the growth that she has exhibited from the time that I've known her. I've known her for, it's been a little while now. I tell you, we might be pushing up on about 6, 7, 8 years or somewhere in that ballpark. But I don't want to belabor the point, Chuck. And I know I kind of stole your thunder, but I guess I got a little excited because Sharae's coming home with us tonight. And
hey,
like
Rico,
I said, probably a show that's long overdue. We probably should have been had her on. But
I agree.
Let's welcome Sharae Moore of She Trucking. Good evening, Sharae. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and thank you for having me on. It took a decade, but I'm here.
You know what? It's an honor to have you on, and it was so nice finally getting to meet you in Louisville last week at Matt's. You're certainly, with what you've done with She Trucking and with your trucking profession and the way you give back to the industry and your passion. I'm just thrilled to have you on, and I'm so proud of what you have accomplished in a short period of time. It's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't get a chance to introduce Sharae Moore officially. Sharae Moore is the genius founder and CEO of She Trucking, which is an advocacy group. And she's an experienced trucker. She's been on the road for years. She knows everything about it, and she is every bit as passionate today as she was, I think, when she first climbed into a truck as a young girl. Am I correct?
That's right. You're correct.
How many years have you been in the trucking business altogether, Sharae?
So actually, this is my 10th year, and She Trucking is our 7th year. So I'm happy I made it a whole decade in the trucking industry. Starting off, you just don't know, right? You don't know how long you'll be able, but they say only the strong survive, and that's why we're here. And again, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. It was so good to see you up in Louisville, Kentucky at the Mid-American Truck Show, Chuck. So I really appreciate you bringing me on.
Well, next year we're going to have Rico there too.
Yeah, I dropped the ball this year. I'm gonna make sure I pencil it in and make sure I got the hotels is what kind of prevented me from coming this year. Those hotels they was proud of them hotel rates up there.
You know what? So my team, I'm always traveling with my team. It's so many of us. So what we do is we just get an Airbnb. You wouldn't be surprised.
I could have came and crashed with y'all. I could have came.
Exactly.
I'd have slept on the couch. It's all good.
Yes, yes. I think the Airbnb is the way to go in Louisville.
Yeah, you know what? It is. If there's a group of you, it's certainly, accommodations are expensive, and how accommodations work, of course, it's supply and demand, no different than Uber, no different than trucking. When there's an event in town, there's a big demand, and even if you book a year in advance, you're still going to pay more than you would perhaps a week earlier. But they know when the events are, and they charge and of course, the closer you get to the event, the more the rooms are.
Yes.
So, and with that said, I don't want to belabor the point because we're running a little bit late tonight. Now, I don't want to keep anybody longer than what we have to. So, Sharae, catch us up. It's been a little while. Catch us up on what you've been had going on and what you're doing now, and kind of give us the whole rundown and bring us all the way up to speed. Because I tell you, I know a little bit of backstory, but I'm not sure if I'm up to speed as far as what the current events and situations are.
So all of this got started because I couldn't find a T-shirt, right? That said I was a woman truck driver. So I was like,
Got my
"That
T-shirt.
you still got your
I
shirt?
still got my.
Oh my god!" Yeah. So I started the T-shirt line. As you see, I passed it out to everyone. I wanted everyone to be proud to be a truck driver, right?
And so,
And so,
yep.
mhm. And so that so I started meeting more women. At the time, I didn't know a lot of women in the industry. From my face, we was in like Black Truckers United, Black Truckers Incorporated, other trucking social media groups back then, and so I didn't know it. It was only the women that was in those groups that I
Right.
actually knew at the time. And so, other than that, I didn't know many women in the industry at all. And at this time, I think I had almost going on 6 months to a year. I was really, really new in the trucking industry. And so, here we are 7 years later. I end up getting the LLC, buying a truck, becoming the owner operator, went through that whole thing. And just really now I founded She Trucking Foundation. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are here to empower women and minorities in the trucking industry.
I think that is so phenomenal. And I think that, I don't think that the trucking industry was fast to catch on having women in the industry. I remember a time we
Yes,
had
yes, that was one of the first
First,
shirts.
first
Yes.
wardrobe change of Racing Lane's history.
Yes, yes. So that anytime you see that trucking across the United States, that was one of my original thoughts and designs, and I wanted it to be this kind of distorted looking. So because right, the potholes in the roads, and we were crossing the United States, I thought about that, and so it says trucking 1 mile at a time. I get so excited when I see it. Thank
it's
you.
brilliant.
Absolutely, and at the time, definitely, Sharae was she was in the infancy of starting the T-shirt line, and she was just passing them out, and I was like, nope, I'm paying for my shirt because
Yeah.
I
I
wanted to.
agree.
I definitely wanted to support her and support what she had going on, but I think that's another thing that that encouraging in the camaraderie within the trucking industry when we see someone that we happen to cross paths with that's trying to do something as long as it's positive. For the most part, the trucking brotherhood kind of bands together and kind of helps try to lift them up and support them. So that's
Absolutely.
that's definitely one of the things that when we very very first got started. But yeah, I still got my shirt. I still wear it from time. You see, it didn't take me long to go dig it out.
Yes, and quality matters, right? I wanted something that would last for a long time. At the truck show, everybody asked me, "Where are your shirts?" This was the first year that I really didn't do shirts. We had a magazine, so we launched our magazine,
Okay,
and oh, did I get some backlash? So we will be bringing shirts next year.
okay. So we
Definitely,
so we
people,
doing magazine. We got the magazine. How often are you publishing the magazine?
We're gonna do it twice a year. Truck driver. So I love the International Women History Month. Right. This is in March. So I think I'll do it again in March and then bring it back again in September for driver appreciation. That week I'll just launch it then. So twice a year. I definitely want to make sure that y'all in the magazine as well. So I'll be sending you information for that. But we launched it March the 8th on International Women's Day, and over 1,000 people looked at it, and we had 500 that we was giving away at the Mid American Truck Show. So it's been a huge hit. Very informative information. Um, Everything that we do throughout the year, we just kind of pull and everything into one, and give people the full view and picture of what we do and how we serve the community.
Well, that's, you know what? It's so wonderful to, because our industry has changed since, when I got in it, which I guess I'm giving my age away, which is just about 50 years ago, it was 1974. And there was a real brotherhood out there. We didn't have a lot of, as a matter of fact, I didn't see a lot of female truckers for the next 5 or 6 years. I only knew of one up in Canada who actually worked with us. She was an owner operator, Verna. Until the early 80s, you start to see the odd one, but it's, even then there weren't shower facilities for women. There were hardly bathrooms for women. It was a different era, and I'm so glad to see that so many women, people like you and Ellen Boyd and a bunch of women that are really, really passionate. Lindsay Trent, and there's a whole group of yous that are just so passionate about the industry, and you're doing what you can to bring young people in, especially young women. And that's half the population that was overlooked for decades. Because I do get it, because when I got in it, a lot of trucks didn't have power steering, and if women back then weren't that strong, and they couldn't, they had a hard time steering, backing into docks without power steering, doing dry turns, stuff like that. So it's certainly gotten better.
It definitely has. It definitely has. And one thing that, Sharae, if you could help us understand when you first, like I say, you started your transition going from just being a driver in the industry. What were some of the things that kind of made you see that there are different things that you need to address, or different things in the industry that may or may not have been more friendly to our women counterparts coming into the industry? We lost your audio.
All right, yeah, my little dog, he don't understand. My little dog, he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
He wants to be the star of the show.
Right. I'm like, okay, maybe you want to be in it. But you're right. It wasn't a lot of women, right, in the industry at the time. It was enough for maybe you to see one every 20 trucks, I would say, back in the day. Now you may see one woman every, I'll say 4 women. Sometimes I see 4 women at the truck stop now at one time, which is huge. Please ask that question one more time.
Well, I was just when you first came, when you started to witness different things as far as the things that you were going to pursue to advocate for. What were
Right.
those? What things that kind of made you say, okay, I don't see anybody necessarily advocating for this, or that there could be more of a voice behind that particular issue? What were those? What were those issues, and what were those things that made you want to kind of step up and take and kind of take the mantle on for those issues and those opportunities that presented themselves?
I had 2 triggers. I came home and I went off to school, right? Got my CDL, through the whole program. I went with my trainer. I didn't come home because I didn't have no kids. I wasn't married, so it wasn't necessary. I just kept going. I enjoyed it. I loved it so much that I was like, I don't want to go home. And then when I did come home after a month or 2, I realized I had nowhere to park. And I live in Chattanooga. So yeah, back then, where's the truck stop? Now
Right.
we have a couple of places here now, but that was one of the first things. I was like, I have nowhere to park my truck. The second thing was I was working at USF Holland. Now this was the breaking point for me, and I was working at USF Holland, and it was no women's restrooms in like
Yeah.
some of the terminals because I was the only woman I think in Ringo at the time that did line haul here in Tennessee. And I never forget, I'm up in Indiana and a woman was crawling through. So, you know, when you go to the bank and it's like the little hole, the tailor, and it's like the glass, you
Right.
know.
Yep.
Right.
Um, it was a lady, she had to be in her 60s crawling through to use the bathroom because all the women's restrooms was in the like behind. They did the paperwork, right? So they was, you know, it was in that area. But in the driver lounge, it was no women's restroom. And so I asked them, I said, well, what are we supposed to do? They said, go to the truck stop down the street. That
Hmm.
was my trigger right there.
Wow.
Next thing I know, we was union. Oh, I got the petitions. We got the petitions out. People started signing the petitions. A lot of men said we didn't even realize that it wasn't in restrooms. When we did have to use the restrooms, they would hold a door for us. So when nobody come in,
Mm-hmm.
some of the men, you know, and it was just like no one thought about it because it had been the same way for so long. And that's when I told that lady, I said, you will never crawl in a window again. And USF Holland had to redo all the terminals and add a women's restroom after that.
So they
Wow.
should. You know what? Because that's not right. You know, and I know the world was like that, but I didn't realize it was like that so recently at some of those big companies because you know it's just there's no dignity in that.
That's
Yeah.
surprising. Very surprising to hear, especially a company. Well, is Holland still with us? I don't think they're still with us
They
either.
not
They
Nope, they're not with us now. You know, they combined with Yellow because
that's right. Yellow YRC.
companies
Yeah.
who are not willing to. So, long story short, last year, year before last, I'm gonna give you an example. I literally applied to because you know we have experience now, right? So I applied to get more into like being a terminal manager, operations, that part. And I wasn't successful at being able to go from that driver to getting into that next position. And I think that companies who are not so the key to really retaining drivers to me is to help them grow in the industry. I feel like helping them advance in different parts of the industry is so important. For not all, okay, but the ones who maybe have a little computer background, you know, who is more savvy, more people like me. That's I'm a millennial. I know how to use a computer, right? So and do other things with secretary work is what I did. Before trucking. So that stuff is easy to me. But when they see the commercial driver's license, they want to keep us there. And if you don't help a driver grow in the industry, you're gonna lose them, right? You're gonna lose the attention because nowadays drivers have short attention spans too, you know.
They
So
always do.
right. So I think that was you know, also the cause because now you have people with no experience in trucking, just in these roles. They have no idea. It's a miscommunication versus putting someone like me. You know, now it's like, okay, I can help some. Well, I used to work for the truck parking club, for instance, right? So I could, when the drivers will call in, I can help them with multiple issues that people couldn't help them with, you know, and that was a strength. And so I think for companies to continue to keep growing, stay open is to diversify their portfolio and help us drivers go from that driver's seat and just ask us, what do you want to do in the industry? You know, and train us, putting training in nursing. I was a CNA, so the medical field is my background. They always had continuous education.
Yeah.
And I think it should be continuous education courses out here that we can say, hey, yes, I want to be a dispatcher, but this is the continuous education course that I need to take, not from random people, not Instagram people,
Right.
but from the actual, like, I think it should come from the top. You know,
Yeah.
this is what is needed to operate the supply chain.
You know, I got to say one thing, Sharae. I have, we have elevated drivers through the years from driver into the office, and I have to tell you, most of the time we were not successful. And even with training, and I have to apologize, I have dogs in the background downstairs. And one of the issues was a lot of times they just didn't get it, and they didn't get the social side of things. Of a lot of times the drivers were brutal with other drivers because
That's true.
they had
That
a way
is true.
of, they would a driver would call me, say, I only did, I left the terminal late, and I only got 300 miles, and the dispatcher would just explode at him. I always did that run. I did that run for 10 years, and I never did under 500 miles. Well, not everybody's super trucker, and most of them didn't work out because they either were brutal with the drivers or they were too soft. And you had to have the in between. You had to have somebody that was fair but knowledgeable. And then you got somebody sometimes that had driven 25 years ago and said, well, we ran Chicago in 9 hours. There's no traffic. Well, you know what? There's a lot more traffic now than there was 25 years ago. And that sort of thing. And I think that's why some companies are hesitant to bringing drivers in. And a lot of times you bring even experienced dispatchers, they come with bad habits. So they rather take somebody that doesn't know. My best dispatchers were people who didn't know a truck from a bowling ball. And I was able to teach them without any perceived notions.
Yeah, I guess it's a very fine, delicate dance to do, because Lord knows, coming from the industry and being a trucker, truck drivers, we're a special breed.
We are.
We are definitely a special breed, and you got a little bit of everything in the trucking industry. But I definitely understand from the standpoint, and I think that may be, bringing in the diversity. I understand it from the standpoint of what Sharae is saying, because if you have not to say that women have sometimes they have a different perspective. I think that if you have a woman that's in the industry, and say, for instance, if she happens to want to make that transition to come out of the truck, if if she's starting a family or something along those lines,
right.
Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to still run a truck, to still be in a truck and raise a family, especially if you got small children. So yeah. I definitely understand. I understand the standpoint of what she's saying as far as being able to maybe let someone allow themselves to train and do that. I think that may be more from not to say that it's a bad or a good thing, but I think that may be more perspective from a woman's standpoint, because I think sometimes guys, we kind of tap into that loneliness or whatever. Of just staying in the truck and doing our own thing and being left to our own devices so much, where I think the women are a little bit more sociable than us guys.
I just thought of it. I think the biggest difference is men are too quick to either fly off the handle or to give their opinion. Okay. And we don't listen. And one of the biggest, I've been married to the same woman for over 40 years, and we've been together 46. And her biggest frustration was, I'm typical male. I don't listen. And she says 4 words, and I'm finishing her sentence, or I've got the answer already. And I think being a woman especially coming from the road and being able to listen to a driver's full problem and not try to solve the problem before they even told you what it was. And I think women that I have seen in the office have that ability to listen to the problem and then think for a second and come back, where a man is just instantly trying to fix it.
And so, Sharae, are you still doing the CDL training as well?
So no, I'm getting old. I'm just turned 40. So no. So now, I was thankful to have the so let me tell you how this got started.
Okay, come
Let me
on.
start from the beginning. So a pastor asked me if I could train his son. That's how it all got started. If I could help him get his commercial driver's license.
No good deed
I
goes
said
unpunished.
yes. That turned in 100 people and all this, Oh, in 6 months, I was training 100 people to get their commercial driver's license, and boom, here come the pandemic and all, and here now I'm building a school and a building and all these different things. And so I still offer the like okay, for instance, I ran and got a magazine. On the front of the magazine, it say 9 steps to get your commercial driver's license. And of course, it's a woman truck driver. So,
Yeah.
right, we're gonna break that
Who's
stereotype.
on the cover?
So this is Gabrielle Simmons. She's our one of our ambassadors for She Trucking Foundation.
Okay.
So so we give them the information to get the commercial driver's license, go to a school, and we offer scholarships now. So we want to help you with that support side of trucking. I'm too old now to stand outside and help you bag left or right. It's too cold. So I'm not out there at the schools anymore. I started at the college and moved up to my own program. And now I'm just, more supportive, giving them the information, recommending the schools because school is important. And
Yeah.
so it's more the recommendation. These are the schools that we recommend you going to. Also, I do a lot of things when the drivers, we have, it's called Trucker's Voice, a trucker's voice, I think it is truckers voices or something like that. But it's well, they can go on our site, and if they having problems during school, I can help them with addressing it, getting through it. If they need some extra back, and I went out there and helped people bag, right? Give them different advice on what I use because I failed the CDL test 7 times, and
Whoa.
because I didn't know any other, who do I ask? Who? So I had to keep figuring it out, and then once I did figure it out, what was how do I learn about a truck? And I never been to a truck, right? So you learn trucking before you ever see a truck.
Right.
For the permit part, the CLP. That's what I kind of focused on when I started my school was a CLP because I realized a lot of people could not pass the test and they had never been in a truck. They didn't know what a fifth wheel was. They was counting tires, so I would break it down to them and teach them how I learned trucking. And then, that we had 100% pass rate because
Wow.
of that. So because I would show them the truck on the first day.
Right.
The very first day you're going to touch a truck, you're going to know, we went through the whole pre-trip inspections. We use video, a lot of video and a lot of hands-on. And I felt like the industry does it wrong. They tell you to pass the test. You haven't even touched the truck. You don't even know what are you testing about? You don't have a clue, you
Yep.
know. And I feel like, that needs to change. To be honest, I feel like it needs to change. I feel like people should come in and the first thing they should get is a walk around. That pre-trip inspection. Then let's talk about. Then bring them in to do the CLP, and in that way they're educated from the beginning. So on our website, She Trucking, as you just pulled up, shetrucking.com, pretty much is free information, that we give out on the site. I talk about how to get my biggest thing from day one is how to get your commercial driver's license. Be your own backup plan before you even try to go out here and buy a truck. Get your commercial driver's license. And the reason I say that is because it was many a times I got into a rut myself when I owned the truck and I had to jump in there. I had a driver that I didn't know what my truck was. You know what I did? I got on the airplane. I flew into Dallas, Texas, and picked up my own truck. But you can't do that if you don't have a commercial driver's license. And I think in the pandemic, it was a thing. Jump into the truck and you're gonna be rich. No, that's
Yeah,
not how it
social
works.
media,
It don't
social
work.
media,
No.
the
Mhm.
explosion of trucking and the social media, and I think that we are kind of suffering. The industry is kind of suffering from.
Bad.
I don't want to say bad actors or anything like that. I think that a lot of people, it was kind of like the in vogue thing. It was a hot thing for a little while to get in the truck and to have trucks. Supposedly you could get rich overnight with trucks.
Get rich quick.
And you know the old running joke was when I first got into the industry, they say, you know how you make a small fortune in trucking? Start out with a big fortune.
You know, it's true a lot of times.
Yeah. And it cuts your overhead. So, when the insurance rates, for instance, versus having a commercial driver's license versus not having it, it just cuts it in half. And the biggest key to this is having a low overhead cost and being able to make a profit. So, that's why I keep promoting the CDL. I'm gonna keep promoting that CDL until to no more CDLs exist. So I'm gonna keep promoting it because I believe in it. I believe everyone should have a commercial driver's license that is thinking about operating, especially if you only have one truck, because you need to start off driving. What I did, I started off driving my truck. I built revenue before I even put someone in it because I didn't. How was I going to build the money to pay somebody?
Right. And I think that one of the things that I definitely commend you for, Sharae, is that um, one thing I tried to always stay clear of, especially with the social media and stuff like that, is a lot of people they got into, I don't know, how do I say this? The course building and selling and all that type of stuff. And you got a lot of people, I don't knock nobody's hustle if that's something that that you want to get into. But I think we had a bunch of people that were putting together, packaging together information that easily, readily available, and charging people for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Recoil salesman. Rico, say it, buddy.
Right. That's true. We see a lot of people got rich during the pandemic by
definitely.
And they wasn't even living a lifestyle.
Right.
First of all, they was regurgitating information that you can Google and look on YouTube for it.
Well, I know it had gotten really bad when my little sister called me up and was like, "Hey, bro, I know you driving and everything, but I can dispatch for you." Now you ain't. I've had my own company since 2009, and now all of a sudden, because the explosion on social media, now you want to talk about this, but no, so keep on doing what you're doing. I got it on this end over here.
And I was telling Mr. Chuck, I said, look, I didn't enjoy the ownership side. I love driving so much that it took the fun out of it for me. Now I'm stressed out and I'm like, I got to get the next load. I got to figure this. I got to submit this paperwork. And I said, you know what? I love driving. And I think I want to put and let people know it's okay to be a driver.
Yes.
My dad enjoys driving. He's 67. He's still on the road right now. He's not an owner operator. I tried to get him the truck. He didn't want it. And he enjoys the driving. And I know for me now, I love the driving part. Like I love to just.
That's something I think that in our community that sometimes we miss. Sometimes because a lot of times when you come from struggle, and we always think that ownership, and there's nothing wrong with ownership, but everybody's not cut out to be a business owner. Everybody's not cut out to do all of the different things that manage it, because when you definitely own a company, when you own there's nobody else to call. So when things break down, when things go bad, when things go left, man, and it can really drive you crazy. And one of the biggest things that I think that we don't do enough in this industry is talk about mental health, but because the mental health aspect of dealing with all of those different things, especially on a smaller scale, when you don't have a team around you to help manage and juggle the different things that maybe it seems like everything is coming at you 1,000 miles per hour, and it can be really, really overwhelming. And
it is.
A lot of times people's health suffer. They suffer real issues from that amount of stress can suffer from health, personally, from a personal standpoint, because all of your finances are tied into. If you're not careful, if you don't have a proper separation, and really when it's your baby, you're literally betting the ranch on it. So it can be really, really, if things go bad and things start to go south, and you got everything riding on it, man. That's a tremendous amount of pressure, a tremendous amount of stress, and not to mention if you have a family or anything like that, and everybody's looking to you as the breadwinner, and right now you ain't got no flour to make no dough.
It's true though. You know what? Yeah, you have the pressure of being a truck driver, which is a lot of pressure today because you've got you've got a long way to go and no time to get there.
Trying to get there.
Okay, so you've got that pressure, and you've got all the pressure of traffic and shippers that take too long and receivers that take too long and people that cut you off and all that crap that we put up with when we're driving. But then on top of that, you have the financial pressure of ownership. And, something happens and you run over something because, pardon my language, shit happens. And you run over something because a part falls off a truck in front of you and you hit it with a front tire at night and you blow a steering tire. Well, we all know the cost of a steering tire today, and usually you got to buy two so they match. So, all of a sudden you're spending a couple $1,000s that you weren't expecting.
Quick.
It doesn't take long.
It doesn't. As they say, more money, more problems. And so I started thinking about, I said, I actually was able to save more money when I was a company driver than when I became an owner. And here I am. I'm like, oh, okay, here's the $3,000 check. Now it's gone. What happened to it? So I was more conscious of how to save. I remember when I was on the road, I had to, like, the first year it was pay bills, get out of debt and pay bills. The second year I said, I'm gonna put myself on a budget. I'm gonna pay myself $100 every week, and then the rest of it is either going towards. And I didn't have many bills, of course, like a little cell phone and different things. And then the rest of it I put into a savings account. And that right there helped me continue to keep building. I would get my groceries, stock my refrigerator, cook in the truck, different things like that, to be able to. And I started having goals. Okay, I'm gonna. This is how much I want to, save by this quarter, or I started just kind of building those goals. But when I was on an operator, it's hard to save for fuel and maintenance sometimes.
Yeah,
it's like, woo, some big expenses was coming. And so I think it's I'm here for I want the company drivers to know, if you enjoy what you're doing, keep doing it. It's okay.
Right.
Don't let no one pressure you into going into the business side of it. If you're not ready, learn the business first. Do your research. I did become an owner operator and lease first. I ain't gonna say I promote leasing. I won't, but I will say it gave me some experience to know what I was gonna get myself into before I just signed the dotted line. Now, when I bought my truck, it cost $12,000. So I'm way before the pandemic, with the trucking. But yeah, I would, I'm going back and getting a driver's seat here soon, and I'm excited because I'm ready to see I remember one day the sky turned pink, and I thought it was the prettiest thing I had ever seen in my life, So I want to get out there and take the photos I didn't take. I just want to go out there and see the things and do the things I haven't done.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think people get enamored and they think, they hear about the big people. A lot of times, especially, truckers, we love to embellish sometimes, but you sit around and you hear people talk about, oh, I made $15,000 today or this week or whatever. And the thing about it is, you got to find the joy in what it is that you're doing. It ain't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. And if you're making a bunch of money, that's great. That's all well and good. But if you ain't keeping none of it, and a lot of times, going back to the transitioning from out of the truck and into the office, a lot of times people don't have that background. People don't have that training. We still have a bunch of people, which is the problem that we're having right now. I had to negotiating on the load today. people called, they had a load, and they were offering $600 to move the load. Short run. It was only about 220 miles, but ma'am, I'm talking to her on the phone. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that doesn't meet my cost per mile. I can't entertain. I really wouldn't even entertain cranking my truck up for anything less than $500. But a lot of people don't know or understand their cost per mile. They don't have all that stuff broken down. They don't have, and this is some of the stuff that we kind of try to. We've always kind of touted right here on this podcast, is that understanding intimately your numbers, understanding your day-to-day operational costs and things of that nature. And a lot of times people just kind of have an arbitrary number. I remember for years it used to just always be $2 per mile. It used to be the holy grail. If I can just get $2 a mile, well, hell, your operating cost now is probably more than $2 a mile.
It is.
Should
You
be
know what?
if you're really calculating everything that you need to be calculating, and that's just on a plain operation. We're not even talking about anything even remotely specialized, anything like that, where your operating costs could definitely be increased. So understanding those different nuances is a lot more than when people hear. I'm saying that to say this: when people hear about all of the money that can be made in trucking, yes, money can be made, but if you don't have the experience or the expertise and the knowledge and the know-how to understand the business aspect of knowing those numbers and how to run those numbers, maybe practice as an, if you have entrepreneur, because I never want to squander or put rain on anybody's parade that has entrepreneurial spirits, entrepreneurial dreams, or wanting to do something for themselves. Practice as a company driver first. Understand, kind of get a understanding of those numbers. If you don't know what it is that somebody's talking about when they say operational costs or whatever, understanding what your cost per mile is, understanding for trying to, as the driver, you have access to see just about all of the invoices that come across, because you have to sign off on them or whatever. If you happen to have repairs done, things of that nature, keep a rolling journal of all that stuff so that you can understand, if you decide that, okay, I'm definitely going to make the jump into owning a truck, you really have a intimate idea of what it is that you getting ready to get yourself involved in. I definitely, and I'll just be completely honest, when I first started, I definitely didn't have a freaking clue.
You know what? When most of us start way at the beginning, we don't have a clue. And one of the two things that we don't take into account for, number one, is deadhead.
Mm-hmm.
You never figure that out until you've done it, and then after you've done it for a while, you can figure out how many miles you ran a year empty, and that's lost revenue. And the other thing people don't actually get is the true cost of operating that truck, because every mile you do, it's just truck is depreciating. And even if you're gonna, you buy yourself the nicest truck in the world, number one, it'll depreciate. Number two, every mile you do, that engine is wearing down. And at some point, you're not going to get warranty if you keep it long enough.
Right. And I heard, I was listening to a little debate on social media again, and somebody was talking about, well, if I don't get the rate that I want, I'll just sit. Well, sitting has a cost associated with it.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying? So just because, well, I'm going to sit because I'm not going to operate this day, where you're losing out on the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? You're losing out on the opportunity cost there, because now you got to, if you sit a day, you got to make double that, because you just wasted a whole day that's sitting there.
Yes, exactly.
So one of the things I remember that when I first started, and of course I had mentor. I remember calling you, Rico, one time. I said, "Hey, I need help. What is this? I got to. What is going on?" And so, first of all, mentorship helps connecting and networking with people who have been in the industry for a very long time helps. But also, I remember it was a circulating rate calculator back in the day, but we could plug and play. I haven't seen that rate calculator in a long time. And that right there, I don't know if y'all remember it back in the day, you could plug in your people don't even include their overhead expense, your personal stuff, right? the
Right.
house, the electricity, and all that stuff. You can plug all that in, plus all your trucking expenses. But that rate calculator was helpful back
Yep.
then. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One thing that we gotta, we try to advocate on is understanding those different things. That's the huge part of trying to be successful, is making sure that you know that, because if you don't know it, without that, you're shooting in the dark. You gotta understand those things. And one thing I wanted to say about, you said a key, it's kind of like a buzzword right now: mentorship.
Yep.
Here's a hot take, ladies and gentlemen. You shouldn't, not to say that you don't, but Chuck is my mentor. Chuck is one of my mentors. I've never had to pay Chuck one dime.
exactly.
A lot of times people take this thing of mentorship as of, oh, okay, they use this as a, Chuck said it earlier, it's kind of like a snake oil salesman or whatever. But people love to sell you a dream, and they say, well, you can pay me for my time or something. But if you have a mentor, your mentor kind of has a vested interest in seeing you be successful.
Of course, because it feels good. You know what? If you're a good mentor and your mentee succeeds, that's a success.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't matter. I've never mentored anybody for a fee. I always felt like I had to give back because I've been successful, and I've also, to be honest, I've been very lucky, because
Yeah.
there is an amount of luck that's associated with success. Don't kid yourself. Some of it is hard work. Lots of it is hard work, but there's some luck also, because look, we all could have been in another business when the pandemic hit. We could have owned restaurants or hotels or something and gone broke.
Right.
Luckily for the three of us, we were all in the trucking industry. And it was the first time in my, at that time was 46 years in the business, that I've ever seen the world go sideways and for trucking to be the darling of it all, because it never was before.
Right.
And I remember when, and I was so glad I was wrong, but I remember in March of 2020, I was getting a ton of calls from mostly new Canadians that were drivers that wanted to buy trucks. And I said, please, whatever you do, do not buy a truck. Because I actually at that point thought maybe the world's coming to an end. We didn't know.
Right.
And I was totally wrong that time. For that time. But those guys that bought trucks for shortly after for $250,000 Canadian, of course, bought stuff like Freightliner Cascadias. Well, those big long nose Pete's were, I think there's $300,000.
$300,000.
Yeah, you cannot afford with any freight I've seen, unless it's like crazy hazardous freight or something. How can you afford $250,000 or $300,000 for a truck? You got to be hauling something really, really special. I don't know.
They got rid of Pablo Escobar, so
yeah.
But this is why for the last 7 years, our mentorship is in our Facebook community. I used to have 200 mentors that would mentor anyone who just clicked on the button. That's how we went to the Facebook headquarters, right, for our mentorship program. It was a click of a button, we there, right? The 1-800 number, that's so you can call. You don't have, it's on my website. It's on the back of the magazine. It goes to our personal cell phones. You can just call. We never charge for mentorship because we want people to be successful. And that's how I feel like we grew to 30,000. And I knew in the beginning, I said, I want to change the culture. And I can only do that by putting this stuff in their hands. I don't want the barrier. And that's why my expo is free. I don't even charge for people to attend. And we had 2,000 people come in. And out of those 2,000, it's people who said, at your expo, I learned how to get into trucking, and I come and I just want people to get the information. And I feel like information is important to move the culture forward, the generation forward. 2025, a new generation is coming in. Yeah. So now I don't know what the generation that's coming. I forget the name. Don't quote me. But this new generation that's coming,
I think it's Zennials or whatever.
it's something, but it's a whole new generation that's coming, right?
Right.
We got to make sure that they prepare and they ready as they come on. I was just telling Mr. Chuck, my 5-year-old nephew, he could tell you everything about the truck, right? Because he been with me the whole time, and I feel like it's important for us to teach the next people that to just the right way, the right way. I feel like when you start to spend money, it needed to. So I saw insurance payments as courses. I said, wait, you need that for your insurance. To be compliant is expensive.
Right.
It's expensive to be compliant.
Right.
So you're taking a compliance money. It needs to go into the right places, and then the longevity of people, businesses start off on a good foot. So in the 7 years I've been doing this, I never charge, and I have mentored people for 7 years now. Of course, don't ask me about how to be successful in owning a truck. I'm gonna tell you that's not my lane. Because
you're honest about it, and you know what? There's people that own 500 trucks that aren't successful at it, and there's a real knack to successfully running equipment. It's a totally separate. It's a separate skill set. A lot of freight brokers have tried to open up carrier divisions. The vast majority of them failed miserably because they're just not. They think it's going to be so easy. Well, I'm just going to give the freight to my trucks. Well, it's not that easy because you have no idea what it costs to run a truck, pal. Not a clue. You've never done it. You just gave away loads. This is a totally separate business.
Right.
And Sharae, I got to tell you, I'm just loving what I'm hearing. And I'll tell you right now, I will volunteer right now for anything you can throw at me because it's right up my alley because I'm such a big believer in, giving back because it's such a great industry, as you've said.
So that's why this magazine is so important, is because we want to educate people. They say put the knowledge in the book. People ain't gonna read it. Well, I'm putting it in the book and I'm gonna hand it to you. And so one of the things we put on here was 6 troubleshooting tips to save money. And that's like number one. I kept these little I can't think of the name of it, the correct terminology, but it's like those little metal pieces that you take your airlines and you put it together.
Glad hands.
Right.
Not the glad hands, but it's this little metal piece. If your airline breaks and you have 2 airlines, you just stick it in the middle. I can't think of
it sound like you maybe talking about a coupler or something. The couple, if your hose breaks.
So on my truck, the not the airlines, but the it was just air coming out of one of the wires and one of the tubes, and it was cut in half. And I called I called the roadside, and it cost me $300. And he brought out this little bitty piece.
Yeah, little coupler.
A coupler, yes. And it made me so mad that for less than $10, I could have bought those.
Yep.
So I had a 2005 Freightliner Century, no def. I listened to people, right? I said no def system. And so and that's the type of tips, we put in our magazine. Like, hey, instead of going, number one, go ahead before winter come, change all your fluids out, right? Do your PMs. Those, the different tips that can help someone save money. If someone had told me I needed those little pieces in my truck, when that air was seeping out, I would have just cut that thing, put it together. And I kept doing that after that. Of course, it was an expensive lesson.
As they say, sometimes you have to pay the stupid tax. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
That's so true.
So that's what we want to put in our magazines and just get people, like I really have a lot of respect for you, Rico, and Mr. He said, Mr. I want to say Mr. Snow, Mr. Chuck.
Yeah, just call me Chuck, please. Mr. Snow was my father.
Chuck. I have so much respect, and that's why just articles can really go a long way. I think just I want to put all these in the CDL schools. My goal is to make sure that the truck stops. I want to make sure that the drivers, that they have something in their hand, and continue to keep pushing this. Again, I don't ever want to charge for it. This magazine, that's always giving it away. I want to make sure that we are educating everyone that walk through this door, because our safety depend on it. Our safety depend on it. Their safety depend on it too. But if they're gonna come out on the road with us, I want them to
Well,
be
you know what?
knowledgeable.
I know why you're successful, and you will continue to be successful just because of the good karma you create. I mean it. And there's a lot you gain from giving back and from giving. My mom always told me, in life, Chuck, there's givers and takers. You'll get a lot more in life by being a giver than you ever will a taker. And she told me that as a little boy, and it was the best advice I ever got.
So I'm looking at the time. Like I said, I definitely want to say thank you to Sharae for being so gracious with her time. We're recording this show, ladies and gentlemen. And it was me. I'm the problem. I was running late. Trucking.
Well, hold on a second. I'm not. Whoa, Rico, I'm not letting you take the whole hit on this. I got to tell our audience that I'm on a plane tomorrow, and I'm taking a holiday with my wife, and I may not be anywhere where I'm going to be able to do shows. So we got to stack a couple so we can keep this up. So I'm every bit as much a problem, if not, I'm probably more of the problem than you are, Rico.
No. It was me tonight. But trucking is definitely a real. It's a real industry. And one thing that we definitely pride ourselves on doing this show is that we talk about real world. We don't talk about pie in the sky. We talk about actual real world. And it may not be the sexiest thing in the world. It may not be the most glamorous thing in the world. But we try to bring real information. And I definitely, but I want to thank Sharae for being so generous with her time tonight by accommodating us to come on to help us record this show. And like I said, I definitely salute Sharae from the point that, like I said, I think me and Sharae may have crossed paths maybe about 6, 7, 8, maybe even 8, 9 years ago. It might have been right when she first got started.
Yeah. Actually, it's almost 10 years. When I came on social media, I had 3 months experience.
Wow.
I knew
Okay.
nothing. Nothing. I learned from everyone, and people like Champ. Shout out to Champ.
Right.
Dennis Williams. He's gonna get mad at me. But different people in the industry who was, I know, when I broke down on the side of the road, I'm like, how do you slide this tandems? How do you do this? And it's people like you all, Rico, people I could call, people who I can reach out to on social media that really, really help. And so it's been like I said, it's been a decade, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, because it wouldn't be no she without the he's. Okay, it wouldn't be no she without the he's. Because
like I said, I definitely salute, because you have definitely have blossomed into everything that you have done, and the things that you have created. And I definitely am impressed, because like I said, it's good to see somebody. It's good to see somebody that comes up and blossoms out, and just, it's a beautiful thing. So I definitely, and like I said again, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come on and join us. And we got to keep this thing going. I don't want to make this the first and the last time. We want to definitely make sure that we get you back on and stay abreast on to the different things that you may got that you may be having going on, and maybe kind of because I think that's the thing about this industry, that we definitely got to kind of, how do I say, take it back to us in a sense, because I think our industry has kind of gotten a little hijacked by people that are promoting a lifestyle and versus the reality of what this industry is. You got whenever you got quote unquote influencers riding around in Rolls Royces and everything else, that's telling everybody, that how much money that they're selling this big pie in the sky. And like I say, Chuck is one of the most humble, you know, Chuck got some accolades under his belt. You know, was definitely one of the at one point in time the largest, was the oldest brokerage in Canada, right, Chuck?
Yeah, we're the oldest and the largest. We're still the company we founded is still the oldest and largest